of us think that COVID-19 has given us a shock. But it's not only COVID-19. Before COVID-19, that is before December 2019, we were getting shocks. And those shocks were even more serious than the shocks given by COVID-19. Yes, COVID-19 gave us an abrupt shock, and the shocks before COVID-19 were the shocks which I can describe as slow shocks. Probably we didn't come to know about it. And those shocks were related to what is called as the modernization, urbanization, so-called indiscriminate development. And let me explain what it is. Today, India's population of nearly 1.35 billion people, 40% of them live in cities and towns. And within next 20 years, those will be 60%. And by 2100, is likely to go to 80 to 90%. What it means is the villages will be empty and the cities will be full. And once somebody comes to city, that kind of migration from village is the migration from the nature to the concrete jungle, from the green jungle to the concrete jungle. So we get dissociated from the nature. So the source of our supply, our food, everything that we use for modernity, that source, we are going away from that. That is the nature. And once we get urbanized, we will get totally dissociated from the nature. And hence, I would like to say, and I would like to promote coming back to the nature, learning from the nature, getting lessons from them, and doing more research on it, because that is what is lacking. Because most of the people are in cities where there is no nature. We only have the concrete jungles, pavements, cars, modernization. We have the air conditions. We have all these devices that you use the electricity at our home, like dishwasher and a washing machine. And those are the kind of things we enjoy now, whereas we have forgotten going back to the nature and learning from the nature. That's why this series, which is called as Taking Lessons from the Nature, and the need to do the research. Air conditioning today is the status symbol. It is a symbol to project our family. It is a symbol to project our wealth. And it is also a symbol for telling the world that we have something which can cool the space. In fact, cooling the space in which we live or our relatives live was a luxury in few years back, but now it is becoming necessity. There are a couple of reasons why it is a necessity. One is the urbanization. 40% of India's population lives in cities and towns. And cities and towns represent what is called as a heat islands. There is so much heat which is being generated because the sun's energy which fall on the earth is not absorbed adequately. And that's why it is reflected from the cement pavements, reflected from the cement buildings, and then you get heat islands. And those heat islands make it necessary that we use the artificial air conditioning. Nowadays, the air conditioning is also required because if you don't have it, there is a loss of productivity. It is estimated that if you eliminate the air conditioning totally today, whether it is in a shop or in a residence, India's productivity will go down to the extent of equivalent of nearly $500 billion. That is because of people who are working in factories, in a business, or even at home, they won't feel comfortable to work in that atmosphere. And that's why the efficiency goes down. The third reason for the necessity is also the global warming. As the temperature goes up, we would require a cool air. We will require a cool space. Already the average temperature has gone up by 1 degree centigrade and is likely to go more than 3 degrees centigrade if people don't take action by the end of this century. And hence, the importance of air conditioning is in terms of the necessity, in terms of the lifestyle, status symbol. And now we have to find out how the nature deals with it. We have found how the human beings deal with such kind of a problem. But let's see how nature is getting adjusted to that high temperature. So let's see how the nature deals with the air conditioning. The animals which live on this earth, their population is much bigger than the population of 7.8 billion people living on this earth. And the scientists are not able to even calculate how many species are there today on the earth, on the land, on the ocean, in the river, and how many of such animals are there. The human beings is just only small percent of those animals. If they feel uncomfortable because of the high temperature, I think it's worth looking at how the other species and how the other animals are living. Let's take an example of ants. And I'm standing near the habitat, or in the language of urban area, an apartment of ants. Now this apartment is not built by any builder. It is not being sold by any builder. It is constructed by the ants, for the ants, and of the material which is available to the ants in the nature. They didn't use any cement. They didn't use any steel because that is not easily available to the ants. We know that it will be very difficult to say how many milligrams the one particular ant weighs, but those ants have made such a huge apartment. His height is equal to my height, and probably his breadth is much more than the breadth of a human being. How they have done it? They collected the soil slowly from surrounding area. And remember one thing, if you look at the surrounding area, there is no ditch. Tomorrow if any builder builds an apartment and takes the soil, there will be ditch, and that ditch will have a lot of water in it, the rain water, and then later on builder decides what to do with it. But you don't see this ditch because they have collected this soil all over the place. They have gone a bit longer. They didn't, like men or human beings, they did not pick up the soil only from here. Otherwise, to make this kind of a whole heap, probably there will be a ditch here. There is no ditch. Why they selected a soil for that? Because the ants somehow knew that the soil is a good insulation material. Now, how did they know that? So I learned in my textbooks in engineering various insulation materials. The ants didn't have any textbook, they didn't have any classroom, they didn't go to any engineering colleges, but they knew because of their experience over the millions of years that it is a good insulation material and one can rely on that when the weather outside is changing. And ants know that they have monsoon, they have summer, they have winter. Now what do? Then they have, and there's a research has been done on this by a number of researchers, and those are very few, because people do research on digital technology, on space technology, on atomic energy, etc., but nobody does a research on ants' habitat. But there are few who have done it. So they have taken an X-ray, they have sort of gone inside through the camera to see what is happening inside. And if you see that, they have built number of ducts. And I want to show you some of these holes which are here. And if you go through that, you won't be able to go through that because it is so small. But you can go through that the way we have this hospital equipments, ultrasonic equipment and those kind of things. One can find it out that this whole habitat is full of network of ducts. What do those ducts do? If at all you look at the apartments that we build, we have only one exit and one entry. They have series of exits and series of entries, and those entries are not for them. It is for the air to come in. So they constantly keep on changing the ducts. So suppose the cool air is coming from this side. In the summer, they will keep the duct open and close the other ducts. If it is a summer and the hot wind is coming from that side, they will close those ducts and open a one where you have a cool air coming. And that's how they keep on adjusting it. How do they do it? Because though the duct here looks bigger, inside the ducts are very, very small. And it is very easy for them to close and open them. And the research has shown that if you build that kind of a house or that kind of apartment in today's urban language, you don't need air conditioners. Ants don't have air conditioners inside. The advantage of avoiding air conditioner is multitudes of it. Number one is you don't spend energy. Another is you don't have to buy it. The ants didn't buy anything. They just collected the nature's material and they built their house. But we go to the sales agents and collect the air conditioner for them by giving them thousands of rupees. And then we keep on spending on it every year because we consume the energy. Now the people have started thinking, and this is a typical human mind, is that, how to reduce its energy consumption. They do some kind of a changes in a compressor. They do changes in a valve. They do changes in a condenser and the evaporators and try to improve the efficiency. But they don't go to the nature and try to see how the ants avoid the air conditioning. And this exactly is the point, that we need to do a research on nature. We have to do the research on how the other species other than human beings are living, how they survive. The human beings think that we are the super people, we are the super species, we know everything, we know the Internet of Things, we know the blockchain technology, we know cloud networking. What's the use of it? Because we are destroying the nature. We are destroying the system which is providing us a food. And I think we are going on a wrong track. Yes, we have COVID-19, but we also have this COVID-19, a pandemic, which has almost taken over our mind. And for that, we have no vaccine. The only vaccine for that pandemic is to go to the nature and do the research on nature.